I'm Tom.
And I'm Oz.
And we are hosting the WineAlive Summer Sipping Series here at the beautiful Pythouse kitchen garden in Wiltshire.
And today we're doing summer rosés.
Summer rosés, Oz. What a joy! What a nice thing to do.
Yeah, but
Come on.
not all summer rosés are what you think they are.
This is true.
They're not all French. Now, we think French rosés, surely rosé comes from Provence. Well, a lot of it does. A lot of it comes from other parts in France. But today, we've gone to three completely different places to show you three different styles of rosé. And we've gone to a bunch of grape varieties which you wouldn't normally think made themselves into rosé. So, where do we start?
Well, you couldn't pick a more diverse, number of regions, climates, cultures, histories. We're going to traverse the world, aren't we? Which is grand. We're starting with this very lovely thing from a place called Lebanon, Oz. How likely, if you were thinking, we've got some rosé coming, would you be to pick Lebanon?
Well, I suppose the point is that south of France is warm, and they make tremendous rosé. You might think, oh, we want to drink a cool climate rosé. You don't have to. Most rosé is actually made in warm places. Lebanon is warm. Now, the reason we don't think of Lebanon is probably because of the politics. The politics of Lebanon in the last 30 or 40 years. I mean, it has been through such a rough time. Absolutely. We sort of think, how could anybody keep going at all in Lebanon? They're an amazing bunch of Lebanese. They just keep their heads down. I've been to Lebanon. I've been up into the Bekka Valley. I've driven through roadblock after roadblock, going to visit the vineyards. These guys standing there with Kalashnikov rifles, and me just thinking, is this the moment when my luck gives out? Last time I was up there, I came back into Beirut thinking we've got away with that. The next day, a bunch of American students were kidnapped by exactly those roadblocks that I went through the day before. It's a very, very challenging place. But there's a bunch of people there who have decided not to give in. Probably Chateau is the one that one's heard of most.
Yeah, in the UK.
In the UK, because it's the most famous of the wines in the export market, where the guy in charge of Chateau, whatever was happening in wartime and bombing and planes coming and sending missiles at his winery, it didn't matter. He went on making wine. Only 1 year did he miss. Now, we've got a different wine today.
And in many ways, we've got the wine that when you're in Beirut, this is what you'll be drinking, right? The Sunset Rosé from Chateau Ksara, Lebanon's oldest and largest winemaker. Yeah. It's amazing. In an industry that we don't think of as a huge wine producer. They make millions of bottles.
Millions of bottles, about 10 million bottles.
Amazing.
Yeah. Which is, of course, maybe about the same as England makes?
Give or take, yeah, in a vintage.
They've been doing it a bit longer. Yeah. 1857. What was that like in England?
1857, chilly, wasn't it?
It was chilly. I think that's one of the years probably when the Thames froze over. So I don't think they'd be making very much Chardonnay in Sussex in 1857. But in 1857, now, tell me, 1857, French influence?
Very much so. Yeah. There's got to be some Jesuits kicking about, hasn't there?
There's some
monks. There's some monks.
There's always some Jesuits hanging out. And when you get Jesuits, they always start planting vineyards. In fact, this was a Jesuit vineyard.
Exactly.
It was a Jesuit winery until the Pope said he had to sell it.
In the 1970s? 74, I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Chateau Ksara is planted up in the Bekka Valley. So this is this beautiful valley that runs at an enormously high altitude, 1,000 meters plus. Essentially the length of, up northeast, up through Lebanon. And it's an incredible place for making wine. It's obviously a very, very hot climate. It's mitigated by some big diurnals, so you get some cooler nights. You get breezes running through this valley. And as you were telling me before this, I can't lay claim to this, but you were saying there's a really high water table.
Yeah.
So there's a decent amount.
The reason it was planted in the old days, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, was because the enormous numbers of springs in the Bekka Valley means that you don't have to irrigate. There's so much water around, and that means that you can still, even in an incredibly hot area like the east of the Mediterranean, grow vines without irrigation because the water table lets the roots nourish themselves. But of course, the heat of the sunshine is tempered by the fact it's 1,000 meters high. That's 3,500 feet high. That's very high.
Isn't it?
That you couldn't do it down at sea level at Lebanon. It
way
would
too
just
warm.
be too hot.
Yeah. And that amazing culture there that celebrates, drinking wine, gastronomy, some of the greatest gastronomic experiences of your life can be had here.
And look at that
Chateau
colour.
Ksara is at the centre of it.
Do you see that?
Now,
It's
the
got a
colour is
lovely
dark. It's
pinky
beautiful.
bluey
Exactly.
colour.
It's got intensity. It's got this, pinky bluey is bang on.
Now, is that the grape varieties, do you think?
Could well
because
be.
These grape varieties are not the usual grape varieties. So what have we got?
We've got Cabernet Franc,
Yeah.
your friend and mine, famously from the Loire Valley.
Yeah.
We've had a Chinon. It's been very nice. What else have we got in there? We've got a little bit.
Syrah.
Syrah.
Syrah and Cabernet Franc. Two grape varieties, both of which have got a lovely, deep, bloomy kind of red when you make red wines out of them. And they have flavours like blackberries and raspberries, those kind of flavours. They're very fruit-forward wine styles. And I think that shows in this colour here.
100%, I agree. It's got structure to it. It's deeper, it's more flavourful. It's got this lovely red berry. It's got this plumminess, this cherry fruit to it. It's got brightness and kind of opulence and generosity. Great food wine.
Fresh.
It's super fresh.
See, this is
Yeah.
the paradox about rosé wines. You think, oh, a rosé wine is a light wine, a fresh wine. It's got to be grown somewhere cool, somewhere like England. And England does grow very good rosé wines.
Yeah.
But most of the famous rosé wines in the world are from hot places. They're from places like Spain.
Yeah.
They're from places like the south of France. They're from places like Lebanon.
You need flavour. This is made in the Saignée method, so it's got longer skin contact. The skins remain while the fermentation is beginning. It's French for bleeding. It bleeds out colour as the fermentations warm up a little bit. And so you get a bit more structure, a bit more tannin, a little bit more texture. And that freshness is essential alongside that. But that combination of flavour and gentle grippiness and acidity makes these wines incredible food pairing wines. This is absolutely sensational.
So you've got Cabernet Franc and Syrah grapes, two really serious red
Big
wine
old
grapes. And you're saying you crush those grapes, throw them into the vat, and then they macerate.
Yeah.
They sort of sit there stewing and fermenting.
Exactly that.
But instead of for 2 or 3 weeks, just for a couple of days.
Couple of days,
Yeah.
literally that.
And then they draw off all that juice, leaving the skins to do something
they go
else
off
with.
and do something
They
else.
draw off the juice when it's only got a certain amount of colour, and then that colour drops out a bit more. It ferments like a white wine, and it gets a bit lighter, and they judge it just right.
These were the original rosés.
Colour.
This is how rosé came to be. People would be making red wines and they'd be looking in the tank and they'd be going, it's not getting dark enough, Oz. It's not looking red to me. And they'd bleed off. They'd take off a bit of fruit a few days into the fermentation to concentrate the skins and the juice left in the tanks. And so the Saignée was literally created by people going, well, what are we going to do with that light pink stuff we've taken off? Let's bottle it. And so this is a much more refined, very focused, but with enormous heritage style of rosé winemaking. I love it.
And in the old days, I mean, that Saignée thing you're talking about, that was happening in Bordeaux.
Yeah.
That was happening in Burgundy. This isn't something which wasn't practiced in the great areas. It was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now look, get your chops around this.
Oh,
Have a try
yes.
of this. Very different label. It's bright, it's modern, it's floral. It's a bit like my shirt. It's a bit like your shirt, Oz. Here we go.
It's not a bit like my shirt.
No,
Look.
What have you got?
It actually
Trout?
isn't.
It's a range of fish going
Well, I've got
on,
all
isn't
kinds of fish here. It wasn't the fish I was thinking of. It's the fact that this colour is quite different.
It is.
Now, what's this called? This is called copper lining.
Copper lining, pink.
Look at the colour.
It's a thing. It's incredibly copper.
It's
Look at it
incredibly
go.
copper.
It's beautiful.
So,
This is made in Elgin. So this is made
South Africa.
South Africa, in beautiful Elgin. So again, heading southeast out of Cape Town, along the coastline, up through rugged mountains, nice bits of altitude, and crucially, like all the great wine regions of South Africa, getting breezes from the oceans, constantly battered by amazing, gently salty, cooling sea breezes that have come across the Benguela current over the cold ocean outside and mitigates the temperature. So again, a bit like Lebanon.
Yeah.
You think Lebanon, incredibly hot. The Bekka Valley provides climates that are perfect for wine growing. So too here.
It's even more extreme in South Africa
yeah.
because honestly, you look at South Africa and you think, oh, it'll be far too hot. Well, 20 or 30 miles from the sea, it often is far too hot to make any wine. The Benguela current comes right up from the Antarctic. It goes right round the Cape of Good Hope, meaning that the water is icy cold all round there, which means that the air that sits on top of the Benguela current is icy cold every single day. And as the centre of South Africa warms up, of course, all this icy air is dragged up across the beaches, up into the valleys, and any vineyard in its way is going to be cooled down. In a way, the hotter it gets in the middle of South Africa, 20 or 30 miles in, the colder it's going to get down by the sea. And Elgin is a really special place because you drive out of Cape Town across the False Bay. It is a wonderful crescent bay, very, very big crescent bay. And then you clamber or twist and turn up this thing called Sir Lowry's Pass. And there's there's a little dip, a pass in these high mountains, and you go over from the bright sunshine of False Bay. You go over like that, and it's cloudy.
Yeah.
And what you've done is come into a great dip, like an enormous plate, which is the area where all the great South African apples were grown. So it's cold.
We've talked about this.
And apples need cool conditions. And indeed, when we go, this is the second most southerly vineyard in the Elgin area. When you go into this Elgin vineyard, you can see the ring of clouds just to your south. And that great ring of cloud is what's holding off these fiercely cold air coming from the Benguela current. It's a smashing place to grow grapes.
And apples, we're standing here in the orchard at the Pythouse Kitchen Garden, and apples, time and time again, if you can grow great apples, they're a great indicator of great vineyards. Right?
Exactly. Often what the experts say is, it's too cold to grow vines, grow apples, which immediately means go and buy 50 acres of land and plant vines.
Exactly.
Because vines will flourish where apples will flourish.
And this is made by, Shan, Pascal and family. They've got a long heritage of making wines out in Elgin and under the brand Onoric. And this is a wine that it sort of just exudes vibrancy, fun, enjoyment. It's Merlot, basically, and it's got that lovely plummy richness to it, that snuggly kind of warm, inviting thing that Merlot just does. It's what it does.
Oh, it does it to him, not to me.
It does. It's really nice, but it's also refreshing. It's mouth-watering, like the Ksara. It's got both flavour and texture, and it's fresh.
You've got that acidity, but actually, I'm not quite sure about his snuggly thing, but I do get a rather syrupy gentleness to the wine, and that's Merlot, because Merlot ripens pretty fast, to be honest, and it gives a pretty plummy, soft style of wine, and that shows in this. One
man's syrupy gentleness is another man's
snuggliness. Yes,
Come on.
I think we'll leave it there.
A famous quote.
Right.
Next up, charge your glasses. We're going bubbles. Have you? And I know the answer to this. Been to Barcelona recently?
Yes, I have.
Come on!
I've been and stayed. I've been and stayed in what's it called, the Soho House Hotel, right down on the harbour.
Honestly.
And basically, you go in there and you walk into your room, and there is a bottle of Cava in your room, and there's also a little balcony looking out over the harbour. So what do?
That's the thing. That is it.
The first thing you do is not check whether they've actually left any shampoo in the bathroom.
Nope, absolutely
But you open the Cava. So what do you think about Cava?
I love Cava, and I think I've grown up in a generation that the fun with Cava had been had, and I arrived in the wine scene to be told, don't drink that. It's kind of basic party pop, that sort of thing, which in some ways, cheap as chips, in some ways has been taken over by mass volume Prosecco, which similarly can be great, but is often that. And Cava's had a little quiet stage, but I feel like Cava has been gently bubbling away. It's been the bastion of many great sparkling wines at the opening price point in restaurants for a long time. And the region, Penedès, all around Barcelona, which is why we mentioned Barcelona, it's got this incredible heritage. It's got this ability to make sparkling wines that are unlike any out there. And I think Cava's about to be recognised again as it's an opportunity to taste wines that are completely different. Indigenous grapes, All sorts.
It ought to thank Prosecco, in fact,
Yeah.
because it was party pop, and all the supermarkets tried to make it cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper.
And
then
couple of
Prosecco
big
came
brands
along, and everyone said, "Oh, Prosecco's better party pop." So Cava was suddenly left saying, "What do we do?" Well, what Cava decided to do was say, "We are a proper, classically made sparkling wine." They use the traditional champagne method or traditional method to make the wine sparkle by having a second fermentation in this bottle. That's expensive and it's difficult to do. They said, we're going to use the grape varieties that we grow ourselves. We're not going to bring in Chardonnay and bring in Pinot Noir from Champagne anymore. Hey, it's much warmer down in Barcelona. We've got our own grape varieties, and they've got 3 very good white grape varieties called, Pere and
Exactly.
and Lacabou and Chateau. Chateau is this grape variety which we used to think, oh, there's a horrible earthy taste to Cava. Well, that was Chateau made badly. Now we say there's a wonderful oily, nutty depth to Cava.
Yeah.
That's Chateau made properly.
And the combination of them is fresh as anything. Citruses, they're more pithy. There's there's always this gentle herbal layer that just runs through Cavas. And the Chateau is a big part of that. This is another. This is Trepat. And you'll see it's delightfully pink. That's why it's in our sparkling rosé feature. And it's got that lovely copper colour again, Oz. It's actually in that wheelhouse.
And Trepat is another of these grapes that only grows there.
Yep, literally.
It's quite delicate. It's got a thin skin. It hasn't got a great deal of colour. So perfect idea. Shove it in a vat for a day or two. Get just enough colour out of those skins. Run it off.
Yeah.
Make it into a rosé wine. And then make it into a sparkling rosé wine with tons and tons of flavour. It's
Super
really
good.
stylish stuff.
The bottle itself, so this is made by Pere Ventura. They're a family business out there. Not the oldest winemaker in by any means in the region. They're a modern, very forward-looking producer, focusing on quality.
1992 he started.
But they've got family history,
Yeah,
haven't
it had,
they? This
because
is it.
his great-great-grandfather was the person who started making sparkling wine in 1872 for the first time. He, by the way, was thinking of becoming a priest. I would say, I'm delighted, Mr. Ventura, that you decided to become a winemaker instead.
I agree. And what I love about this, and like I'm not going to do down any particular sparkling rosés, but there is a large quantity of sparkling roses on the market that are essentially made for the market. The idea being we can charge you a bit more money if they're pink and they're more fun. There are certain sparkling roses out there, England being one, and Cava crucially being one, where they have a proper reason for existing. This is a great wine in its own right. As I'm swirling it around, giving it none of the credence you should give sparkling wine, and I'm losing bubbles because I'm smashing it about in the glass. No fault of the wine, entirely mine. It stands up as a beautiful wine in its own right, as all great sparklings should, and that's because the indigenous grape varieties, the Trepat, the winemaking here, it couldn't be made anywhere else. Blooming delicious.
Yeah. The guy who makes this says, what's your maxim? He said, my maxim is improve, improve, improve. And I think this is a smashing glass of sparkling rosé.
I really, really do.
Or rosado, maybe we should call it.
Rosado, exactly that. Very, very nice. So look, that is our summer rosé selection. Whatever you're drinking, get out there, enjoy it. They're perfect wines to share with friends, with family. Have a lovely one.
Have a lovely one.
This is just one of our WineAlive Summer Sipping Series videos with Oz Clarke and me, Tom Surgey. If you'd like to know more about the wines we've tasted, head over to our blog at wine-alive.com and check out our other videos. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And thanks again for watching. We hope you sip splendidly this summer.